Velkommen til Prosjekteffekt, en podcast av T2-prosjekt, der vi reflekterer om prosjekt og ledelse. Mitt navn Alexander Strand, og jeg har jobbet i byggebransjen på alle sider av bordet gjennom hele min karriere. I hver episode av Prosjekteffekt-podden ønsker jeg å dele inspirasjon og lærdom fra folk som har gjort verdifulle erfaringer fra prosjekt og ledelse. Jeg brenner for utvikling av byggebransjen gjennom god prosjektledelse, for det er i prosjektene det skjer. I prosjektene kommer folk sammen for å skape verdi. Jeg tror på at god prosjektledelse vil utvikle våre prosjekter, vårt samspill og vår bransje. Takk for at du bruker litt tid med meg her i dag. La oss sette i gang dagens episode. Ditt vellykkede prosjekt starter her. Hva betyr samspill og alliansemodeller i byggebransjen? Og hvordan vil bransjens kontraktsmodeller utvikle seg fremover? Min gjest i dag Allen Tadayon. Allen doktoringeniør med spesialkompetanse innenfor ledelse, prosjektplanlegging og kontraktstrategier. Han har en doktorgrad i prosjektledelse fra NTNU med tema Samspill og alliansemodeller. Han har mer enn 15 års erfaring innenfor praktisk og akademisk arbeid med prosjektledelse og styring av ulike prosjekter innenfor både bygg, olje og gass, samferdsel og infrastruktur. Han jobber nå som førsteamanuensis ved Oslo Met. I denne episoden snakker vi om hva som utfordringer i bransjen nå og fremover, og hvordan ulike samspill- og alliansemodeller kan svare på utfordringene. Et spennende tema som vi også kom innom var spørsmålet «Hva verdi?» Allen har skrevet en rekke artikler på disse temaene og har mange spennende perspektiver å dele i denne podcast-episoden. Allen opprinnelig fra Iran og har erfaringer fra rundt omkring i verden. Selv om Allen har bodd mange år i Norge, ønsker han å uttrykke seg så presist som mulig, og derfor denne episoden på engelsk. Kos dere med denne spennende episoden. Yes, hi Allen. It's so nice to have you here. In this podcast, we try to reflect about what we think is best practice within project management, and especially in the construction industry. And I think you have some experience and knowledge in this area, and that's why we are very happy to talk to you today. So, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, Alexander, thank you for this opportunity to talk a little bit about the challenges and problems we have in industry. All of us part of this industry, and we want to improve it, develop it further. So, as you mentioned, my name is Allen Tadayon. I'm an associate professor in Oslo Metropolitan University, and I'm working with project management in my career. So, I'm holding a PhD in project management from NTNU, and also a master in industrial engineering, manufacturing system, and also a bachelor in production system engineering, of course. I work around 10 years in industry in different branches, a part of academic. I work in oil and gas, construction, and water treatment projects. But I ended up in academic because I was always passionate about, improving and learning some things and, transfer it to the industry. So here I am, and I think we will talk more about what I'm doing at the moment during this podcast when I'm presenting different project or different research project that I'm working at the moment.
That's great. And you, as the listeners can notice, we speak English. You have been in Norway for some time, haven't you?
Oh, yes. Oh, that's actually a funny question that I'm kind of always embarrassed to answer that question. I'm living in Norway around 9 years now. And I understand Norwegian to some extent, but I still feel more comfortable to express myself in English because I want to convey the message properly for those who are going to listen to this podcast. So sorry if this podcast is in English, but I'm sure everybody in Norway will understand to some extent English. So hopefully it's not a big problem.
I think it's going to be okay. And as you say, Norwegian people are very good at in English. So I think it's going to be okay. You talked a little bit about who you are and what you do. You work here at Oslo Met, and you have done some research on the construction industry and project models. So tell us about what you think are the challenges in the construction industry now.
That's a very actually good question, but not easy to answer, because I think there are many challenges that we need to overcome. I did my PhD focused on relational project delivery model and, value-based model, which I assume we will talk about it. So that was one of the needs which recognized in industry a while ago, and we are working deep on these concepts. So I think one of the things that construction industry in Norway nowadays challenging is this bridge to the new culture. We need to change the culture in the construction industry to go more toward value creation and also collaboration. So we want to stop using at least a traditional model for big projects and use a more innovative model in our infrastructure and mega projects. And we know that we are kind of behind of other countries like Australia, United States, or even UK. But we are getting there. We have started some models recently, integrated project delivery model. We have a couple of projects now in Norway. And alliancing, we had it in oil and gas, and now we are expanding to have some alliance, or we are thinking about developing alliance project in the construction industry. But there are many challenges. Nowadays, we are facing this strange time of Corona, which I think added some more challenges to our construction branch.
Okay, can you elaborate on that? What do you think are the challenges or in these Corona times?
Yeah, I actually like to look at these, how we face this situation in our branch, in our industry. And when you look at it, so many people, experts in academia or industry, talking about different negative things happening from Corona, which I agree. We know that there are so many things as an effect of Corona, like delaying the project completion. We know that we cannot actually rely on our supply chain anymore, especially if we have international supply chain. We need to consider that they might suddenly stop, providing us material. We know that in US that happened, like the manufacturers and, the construction company was not receiving the steel that they needed to come from China, and it's affected a lot on the project. And this is not just about the steel. Every construction material which is outsourced internationally might be affected by this Corona time. So that's of course a big challenge, and also the human resource challenge. We know that just consider a small, medium-sized or a small construction company with 20 workers. If one of the project managers, affected by the virus or tested positive, the whole company should go to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What does that mean for that company? It means 2 weeks of no work. So how they can face such a things for a small company? And when we go even a smaller company, few employees, 5, 10 employees. And we know that in construction industry, we have so many small companies. That's why the productivity is low in this industry, because these small companies, they are facing challenges, how to improve their work. They don't have the knowledge. They are few people, practitioners who, doing the job, getting the job done, like, a plumbing company, electrician company, which all are in our branch.
Mm.
So I believe that workforce management challenge, it's a big challenge nowadays in Corona. And also the things that coming out of this challenge is the stress on the financial part. What's happening for a small company or mid-sized company when they cannot work for a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Definitely it's going to come with some financial problem with them.
And you can have some project delays for sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the first things when you don't have your resources present at the work. So who's going to do the job? Yeah. So, of course, project delay, we're going to see so many project delay from now on, or that's my perspective.
I think so.
But Alexander, the interesting things for me is, let's stop talking about bad things out of Corona, how we can harvest good things from this situation, what we can learn.
I really like that because so much focus on the negative. So if you have any positive things that you see from this Corona times, let's hear it.
I think we can learn a lot because the interesting things is when I was looking at the statistic, how Corona actually affect on the industry. We had around back to March 2020, I think was the biggest increase. Nowadays in this time, November, we know that there is again the second wave of the Corona and it might come some new statistic. But in March, we got some statistic that in UK and EU, the construction business has decreased around 12% in March. So that's a big number. But on the other hand, the way that we think the construction industry will fall, it didn't fall that much. And I think that's because we start adapting to the situation. We start learning. Of course, the project delay will still be there, but we start learning. We start learning about, working remotely. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, one of the big advantage now that, telework is more in common. So people using these collaborative tools, people actually, they might have less physical talk, but they have more digital talk nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. We are aware of digitalization. We know that industry go toward being more digital. So this Corona push us to jump into that digitalization. And I like that. There are I think other effects. If you think about a project site, a place that the workers working nowadays, we know that it is more clean and more safe due to Corona. We won't see very messy job site anymore because people care about their health. So they do this distancing. The site is more clean. It is more organized. And I think these are good things.
Of course.
If this distancing become norm, not just because of Corona, we need to be aware of that. We need to have a clean and proper, work site. And it is actually coming with a less crowded work area, which helps the, safety of our worker, which helps to the project manager who is going to the site visit have a better overview of the project, instead of seeing a messy site, So these are the things that we can learn. And I'm sure there are other things like the things that I was thinking a couple of days ago, but I'm still waiting to see the effect in Norway. We already see the effect in the United States that, the union influence is actually increased during the Corona time. Because before this outbreak, not much activity we would see from this union. But now so many people get or they lost their job or permitted. Mm-hmm. So the union work will be more bold now.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. We have some institute or organization who actually take care of our worker, who are aware of the situation and trying to find a solution how to handle these kind of time or a strange time. So that's also a positive effect of Corona.
Very good. About this clean and tidy project sites, because that's something that we have tried to implement for many years. How to work more efficiently by having a clean site, and that also leads to less hurt. You don't hurt yourself. But do you think the Corona actually can lead to more efficient projects?
Oh, very, very good question, Alexander. I believe so. And I think I have a strong, feeling about that belief. And I have some argument why I think like that. one of the things that coming from this clean side, or one of the reason we have more clean side, is companies are more focused on, modular adoption. They are more focused on pre-manufacturing. So they start manufacture different module and different, structure out of their site, and then they just install it at the site. We saw it in big project, but now we know that small companies also start showing interest to, pre-manufactured module and structure. And I think modular adoption is one of the things that increase the efficiency to a great extent in construction industry. We are aware of low productivity in construction industry. There are so many reasons for that. Comparing to manufacturing industry, in last 15 years, manufacturing industry have almost 120% improve in efficiency and productivity, while construction industry is negative productivity. Yeah, and that's something that it's a warning sign. We are doing some things wrong. Of course, the nature of project in manufacturing is different from construction, because there are less elements affecting the process of this production in manufacturing industry comparing to construction. But still, low productivity is okay, but negative productivity, we need to do some things about it. And one of the idea for increasing this productivity is to avoid inside manufacturing. So if you have a small kind of concrete structure, you can make it outside of your work site. You can, use pre-construction, which is one of the bases for lean construction method.
Yeah.
So I believe that this change of using more pre-manufactured structure in construction industry, which now we see is increasing due to Corona, will help to improve the productivity. And, it is a huge thing, because I could see so many companies was kind of, not very sure about using pre-manufactured structure, but now they have to.
Now they have to, yeah, that's it. So, and that's also the thing about, the digital tools. We have to. That's why they all learn to use it. People were skeptical before, but now it's okay.
Yeah, we get used to it.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. And it is good for our boss. It is good for our organization, because another trend I see here is, the commercial offices will decrease. People are sitting at home and they are still productive. Why an institute should pay for the office? In Oslo, each employee, if you have an office in a centrum, I think some things up to 40,000 a month is the office cost for each employee.
Yeah, that's huge.
It is a huge cost. So if you calculate it for big companies like, I don't know, Multiconsult, Norconsult, this big engineering company, if one employee just stay home 1 day a week, not all 5 days. Okay, let's do it 1 day. Everybody work 4 days, 1 day at home. And at the end of the day, the amount of save is around between 25 to 35 million krone just for sending your employee 1 day at home, and they are working. We have digitalization, we have team and collaboration. They are engineers. They don't need to do any, muscle job. So I think that could be some things that the CEOs and those who are making strategies and making the decision are interested to send people home. Of course, there is a matter of, trust as well, if the employee works properly and enough at home too.
Yeah.
But so far, we haven't got any statistic which shows other way around.
No, I've heard some companies where they say that the boss is not fond of this working from home because I don't know if they don't trust the employees or what it is, but there is something there that they don't think that they are as productive when they are home.
Oh yeah,
they don't have the control.
That's the word. That's the word, Alexander. They don't have the control. So that might be, the things that concern some managers because they want to have the control.
Yeah.
But that's one of the culture things that I think it should be changed. We should compete on some other things, the control, because we work on hourly base. You need to fill up 7.5 hours and half an hour for lunch. I think that's wrong. We need to focus on, deliveries. Maybe one employee can deliver something in 1 hour and the next one deliver it in 7 hours. So I think the hourly base and looking at your employee based on this hourly base payment, I think that's kind of outdated. And we need to look at more innovative areas of working together. So that's of course that's my understanding. And I of course there are other reasons for those managers who wants their people or their team to be at the office, and one of them is social protection.
Of course, yeah.
That's affect one of the things we miss, all of us these days. And I think before we start recording, we were talking about it, that we are tired of team meeting.
Oh yeah.
So many of them. We need to have, some real discussions, sitting around the table, talk. We really need those things nowadays. And I'm sure that's one of the challenges in Corona time, which rising up, people getting too far from each other.
Yeah, that's my concern. Also, it's we are social people, social creatures, so we need to socialize.
Yeah,
and if everything is on Teams or Zoom, it's we miss something. It's
exactly.
We have to get that also.
That's
the
true.
Social side.
How do you think about the collaboration? Do you think, or let's reformulate it, how much collaboration is good? Do you think this much of collaboration and having so many team meeting every day? What do you think about it, Alexander? What's your perspective?
Yeah, I think, okay, we collaborate more, maybe. We collaborate digital, but we also need to have time for ourselves to process everything,
Yes.
Because I think many of us, we go from one team meeting and then just turn off that meeting right into the next meeting. There is no small talk, no coffee, no nothing. It's just very focused on the tasks and what you should do.
I agree.
And I think that's going to be tiresome for many of us.
I totally agree. We don't have time to reflect on the job that we want to do. One thing that I miss nowadays is before Corona time, people usually prepare some things when they are coming in a meeting, Usually when you have a meeting, everybody prepares something, a discussion, idea, something like that. But nowadays, there are so many meetings. People are just participating unprepared. They have nothing to say, and they want to fix the problem and find the answer just by collaboration. I think that doesn't work. It does work to some extent, but we need some time to sit and reflect on what we are talking about.
Of course,
collaboration is good, but I think to some extent, when people knows that, okay, we got the idea, let's go do some work and come back with the work we have done, put it in the discussion. Let's see what other people think about it. Not just, making a design in a team meeting. That's not going to happen. But we are at the beginning of this road of digitalization and,
Of course. Okay, you talked about many interesting things, but this change of culture and this change of how we organize our projects is very interesting. You talked about value-based models and relations-based models. Do you think is that the big trend now that we are developing in this direction? And can you talk a little about what does it mean? What are these models?
Yep. Thank you for bringing it up. I think value is very important to talk about nowadays. We are at a stage of, construction history that we need to pay for the value. We need to pay for the value, so we need to recognize the value. So value model is actually a model that pay the party who doing the job based on the outcome and based on the effect of the outcome. So we just not purchasing because of the lowest price anymore. We purchasing the value. And by talking about value, one of the problems with value is some value are not tangible. So we have tangible value. We have like financial capital. The money itself, it's tangible. We can see it. We can touch it. Or manufactured capital. All of these are value, tangible value. But on the other hand, we have social value, social capital. We have human capital. We have natural capital. So these are recently recognized as value. So before that, before this relational model or collaborative model, we were working with business model or project model, which slowly think about price. So we have this triangulation of the price, the quality, cost, and the time. Of course, that is still valid, and it's one part of different model. But now we have different kind of value. Now we understand that some values are important. One of the couple of example for make it more clear in Norway is like the new example, the Dutchman library. It is unique project. I enjoy when I enter this library. It is just couple of simple material, concrete, steel, and glass and wood. Yeah. But everything looks so elegant. The architecture, the light, everything is so good. So, and it's a costly project. It's a huge $1 million worth of project. But it is not a good big library. So what is there? So what is the value? It's a social value. It's a symbol for our capital. This is something that people coming to Oslo and say, okay, there is a library in Oslo at the harbor that I want to go and see it. So it is actually contributing to our social life, more than you look at it as a library that I want to go sit there and study. I don't see Dutchman in central station like that, or other things. I always thinking about this Flytog, the fast train from the airport to the city. When I thinking about 10 years, I don't remember how many years ago this project was built. This is a very costly project, and how they actually justify it, because if as a user you need to pay more than 200 to come from the airport to the city in 20 minutes. Yeah. On the other hand, you can pay 100, which is less than even half of that amount, and come to the city with 30 minutes. Yeah. So why you should pay that much money for that 10 minutes? Because I don't see that's a justified reason for such a big project. But when I look at it as a fast train in capital of Norway, then I can justify it, because again, it is some other value than just financial capital or like the tangible value. We have so many of these projects, so many examples, and I think we start learning about these values, but we don't know how to apply them, how to measure them.
Okay, let me stop you there, because I think about this. When you in project governance, when you start a project, and develop a project, you have to calculate the value of this project. What is the cost versus the benefits of this project? And these things that you talk about, this social value, how can you calculate that into your project development calculation?
Oh, very good question, Alexander. I hope I knew the answer. We have actually a project now running. We call it Verdibasert avtaleformer, which is a value-based procurement format or contract format. So the thing is, we don't know. It is very difficult because, as I said, we have two problems here: how to identify these values, how to recognize them. Then the bigger problem is how to measure them, and then how to reward them. Yeah. And that's a big problem. And we are looking the project that I just mentioned. In that project, we are focusing on engineering contract, because engineers create value through their design. Some of these values, are these, for example, social values. So they are not actually recognized or rewarded in the contract. Some other of these values are, natural capital, like consider hospital or a school that has a very good design, sustainable design for energy saving. So the amount of energy that this building will save through the life cycle of the project is not calculated as a value to be added, to the value that this design is creating.
Okay.
So we need to start doing that. We need to look at the whole life cycle of the project.
But we do that sometimes. I think, for example, Samspill, where I used to work, we did this life cycle analysis, and then you do this life cycle cost. But I'm not sure if you get all those values that you talk about in these models.
Yes, that's the problem. In these models, we just talk about tangible values.
Yeah, exactly.
We cannot, or we are not in the stage that we define those values yet, how to recognize them. And this project, which I said, that the whole point of this project is that to find out the value which a designer will create through a design. What is the difference between two design companies when they have the same contract? And in one of them, the designer focus on sustainability, focus on energy saving, focus on using the local material. That's also sustainability because they go back to our, local sites. So we are in this project looking on these values, how these values can be created through design. And okay, if the value is created, now how can we measure it? How can you measure a social value of, this Deichmann library? How can you say, make it a tangible, number to say, okay, this worth $10 million? This is very difficult. So the approach is to first listing these values. And then during the contract, we should negotiate these values on the design, that these values are going to be created. There is still no concrete, solid way of measuring them, but at least we can weight them. And I think it is now in bigger projects as well. We know that there are delivery models like IPD, like Alliance, like a pure version of partnering, that there is no more competition on lowest price. It is a competition on the created value. So we have target cost, we have target value that different companies need to achieve. And also the whole cost of the project is based on those values. So it is much easier in the big project when, all the parties are signing single contract or all the parties are at the same table like IPD or Alliance. But when you divide the designer and the construction company, then it is difficult because the designer creates some value through the design, but the construction party who making that project will reap the benefit. So that actually, that money should go to the designer, or it should be the one team, is, integrated design and construction. And that's the argument behind this collaborative model. We believe, or we think that we need to be together solving the problem. But I don't know, what do you think about it, Alexander? What's your perspective about, not tangible values? Do you think we are in the place that bring them into the contract?
I think you can ask for not tangible values, but how, as you say, how can you measure these values? And if you ask a contractor, can you deliver these values? I guess if it's not tangible, he would say yes, I can deliver, but it's not measurable. So
yes,
I don't know.
Oh yes.
And how would you know as my customer if I have delivered or not?
That's the challenge.
I think that's a very big challenge.
It is. But Alexander, it's a road that we need to go. We cannot, it's like digitalization. We cannot resist, on technology. Technology is going forward. We cannot stop and say, okay, I don't like to use Team. I don't like to use this software. No, you have to. We know that, new engineering will be different. We are not competing on the design in, some years ahead. We are not still there. But now we see with these digital databases, some module design or some design, there is no competition on them. You can get this design in a database and have them. So we need to compete on some other aspect of engineering.
Yeah.
So our engineering also, I think the engineering profession also is going to change by all this digitalization.
That's very interesting. I think we're going to come back to that. But I think how you organize this project may be very important when you talk about this value-based project, right? Because if it's not so tangible and not so measurable how these values are created and what is the cost, maybe we have to get together and share more of the cost, share more of the values created.
Very good point. And I'm saying very good point because you actually mentioned the reason of another project which I'm working, and it's called Optimal Teed. So as you just mentioned, it's about the dialogue early in the project. So the problem, one of the challenge and one of the things we don't actually, or we neglect these days, is this early dialogue. So we need to sit at the beginning of the project when we are defining the project, not when we are doing the detailed design, because that's too late. Before detailed design, in concept development, in big project, we need to sit together, the engineers, the contractor. We need all the competence at the table to find out what we want, to define goals, because we want to collaborate. So how can we collaborate if we don't have aligned goals? If you are going into one direction and I'm going to another direction, this collaboration doesn't make sense. So this early dialogue are very important. We need to have them in all projects. And the optimal time project, which I mentioned, it's about how early is optimal. When should we bring the contractor and other competence into the work to talk about, constructability, about value creation, about new method of working. So when is early enough?
Yeah, and what did you find out so far?
So far, we find out that it is very difficult. But we have some progress. We're thinking as one way of doing that is to first of all understand what are the activities that we need to carry out before executing the project. By executing, I mean constructing the project. So in Australia, New Zealand, they call it pre-construction activities, or PSC. PCS, sorry. But in Norway, usually we refer them as activities in early phase of the project. So the systematic way to doing that is to look at the activities in concept development, in the early phase of the project, before detail engineering, and even in detail engineering, all the activities before construction, and see, okay, we have this list of activities. So what are the activities that create value? That's one question that needs to be answered. The second question is, what are the activities that contractors and the party who are going to execute the project can carry out those activities instead of, the client or the consultant? Or when we are talking about the contractor carry those activities, we mean better than us. So we want them to do this. So then the next step is, when we're listing these activities, when we find out which activity can be done by other people, then we need to weight those activities. Some kind of methodology which we are not there to understand, okay, when is the optimal time? How early is the early? Because if you look at the cost, if you bring everybody into the project early, not optimal time, then first of all, transaction cost goes up. So many costs for this dialogue. then you might not, go with that contractor. How you're gonna, pay for the time that they were there. And also there are more challenges regarding that. And if we consider the other side of the angle, and you bring the contractor too late, then there is no value of bringing them, because you want to check the constructibility. You want maybe to get some idea for your design from the contractor. So it's very important to understand when is the optimal time. And how to find that optimal time. And as I said, we are just at the beginning of the way. There are Statens vegvesen, Bodø kommune, Veidekke, these NTNU, these companies are part of this optimal seed project, which is based on NTNU. There is one PhD working in the project now, postdoc, and 2 other PhD coming next year. So this is a huge project because industry feels the need. A research council saw the need that, we need to pass this question. We talked a lot about advantage and disadvantage of early involvement. But now we need to ask the big question. How early is the early? How early is the optimal early?
And are you looking for one answer, or do you think it's dependent on the project and the surroundings of the projects, or what do you think?
Definitely it depends on a project characteristic or, market characteristic. And now, especially now with all this Corona happening. We don't have any clear idea of what the outcome will be. Is it going to be application, Excel sheet, framework, or just some, guideline? So we don't know about it, but we will consider different, external and internal regulation and, like project characteristic, owner characteristic, market situation, what are the EU public procurement regulation, because we're talking about big project for, Statens vegvesen, NTNU, and we know that in EU, we need to follow the transparency and also the EU public procurement regulation. So at the end of the day, we need to put all of these into the system, which hopefully we will do it up to the next year. And there are a website for this project. So if anybody interested, just Google Optimal TEED and it leads you to the web page in Project Norge page. It's an interesting project.
That's great. I think people will maybe get some more information there. You talked about value-based models, and now we talked a little bit about partnering and optimal time to have the contractors come in. You mentioned relations here earlier, and I think for these models to work, you need to focus on the relations, right?
Of course.
And what do you think? How can we do that and get the right amount of trust into these models?
Trust is an interesting concept, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
I call it, in my study about partnering, I divided the model to 2 kind of elements. I said, we have soft elements and hard elements. Hard elements are those that you can regulate them in the contract, that you can see them, like, extra meeting, format type of the contract, or these kind of tangible things. And on the other hand, we have things like soft element, which are vital for the success of these kind of model, relational model. And these soft elements are the things that we cannot feel them, or we can feel them, we cannot touch them. So they are not physical, like trust.
Yeah.
How, if I go to my team in a project and ask, guys, do you trust me? And I'm a project manager. Of course they say we trust you. They never say we don't trust you. So how we can find out the trust is there? Yeah. That's also a big discussion now. There is a study in NTNU, a PhD study that working with these soft elements, of course, if somebody interested more. But in my understanding and perspective, we cannot actually, build trust directly. But there are elements that are tangible elements and hard elements, but help to build up trust. How do you trust a person? First of all, you need to have so many interaction. Am I right? You cannot just say, okay, this guy is, I don't know, a good project manager, so I trust him. That's just wording. The trust coming when you work with somebody and you have interaction. So one of the things which I think it's very important in these relational models is meetings that are regulated to contract, that you have to have these meetings, like team building meeting, a startup meeting, risk assessment meeting, so many meetings. And it's come back to the digitalization, which we were talking about. But these are the things that can make up the trust, the elements that people work more together. That's one thing. Another things which I think we neglected a lot is we need to forget about our parent company when we are in the project. And it is a sense of, for example, alliancing, branding. When you are in an alliance project, you are employed by that alliance project. So you are not employee of Nur Consult or Multiconsult or other company.
But
you
that's
are
not where you get your paycheck,
right? Yes, that's the thing. So we need to bring this culture. We need to have the culture of, matrix organization structure, that when you are in the project, of course, you are in the body of this company, but so on for now, for the next 2 years, you are belonging to this project. So do whatever is best for the project, not doing whatever is best for your parent company. You are in the project. If the project is success will be divided between all partners, win-win or lose-lose. These are the essence and a skeleton of these models.
So that has to be regulated, right? In the contract, and how that our common goals in the project will actually be good for the different companies.
Exactly. That's why the first step in this collaborative model is to define an established common goal, aligned goal. It shouldn't be, too details, but at the end of the day, we need to move to the same direction if we want to collaborate, if we want to have that trust. So aligned goal and objective are, again, the first step when you are going to build up trust. And I think it's happening in this project. It is very slow speed, and I understand it. But I give you an example, Alexander. I was in Australia back in 2016, studying alliance project. So we visited or we interviewed people or managers from 14 projects. And that was very interesting insight for me while I was talking with one of these senior project managers. And he mentioned that for him or for Australian construction branch, it doesn't matter anymore which model they use. Is it partnering, alliancing, or IPD? And I said, why? Why it doesn't matter? He said, because people now know that collaboration is good. People got to that point that they know if they bring the construction company early into the work, it gives them some value. So in their, unconsciousness, they have some recognition for this, collaboration. So they collaborate very easy. They don't need binding regulation through the contract to, push them to collaborate. But we need it now in Europe. Maybe in, 10 years, 5 years, we are in the place that we, without thinking, we know that, okay, I need to call my contractor to see what he thinks. But we don't do it now.
No.
And, we compete at this knowledge. We don't want to share knowledge. But as I said, this is another trend. We will get to the point that sharing knowledge, we will understand that sharing knowledge is good because we're improving the whole industry, we're improving the whole branch. Look at, I always make this example with my students about Tesla and how they come up with the battery. They release their research and, information about these batteries for electric cars. So suddenly we saw that each manufacturer start, making electric car. Some people thinking, okay, this was not good. They lose customer. They teach their way to other companies. But when I look at it, compare now to 5-10 years ago. 10 years ago, we didn't have that much electric car. 5 years ago, people were so skeptical. Should I buy Tesla? Oh, electric. Nowadays, nobody think about, electric car is good. Or I cannot say nobody, but the majority think electric car are a possible alternative because they are common.
They are working.
Because all companies have version of that. But if Tesla kept it for himself, it would take several years for other companies to get to that level. So we were still struggling to have other brands of electric car. So I think construction industry also we need to do the same. We need to find new ground for competition, not those old elements that we compete on.
I actually wrote down a question here before you talked about it, but standard contracts. Do we need contracts in these alliances or these partnering? You said in Europe we need it. We try to, in the industry, they try to make a standard contract for partnering or Samspill, but it's not established yet. What do you think about that? Is it something we need?
I think so, and I just try to clarify what I said earlier. Was that when I brought up the example in Australia, was that the collaboration culture is there.
Yeah.
So of course you always need the contract if something goes wrong, but the name doesn't important. The name doesn't matter anymore.
Okay, I see.
So what it is inside. And alliancing, what I like about alliancing is a standalone contract. So there is one contract and every party signed that one contract. When it's come to IPD, it might be several contracts. And when we're looking at what's going on in Europe, Finland is a good example.
Yeah.
Finland is a couple of steps ahead of us in relational delivery model and contract. And the reason is they start using alliancing without even using partnering, because they heard about alliancing, they sent somebody to learn about alliancing, and they start alliancing in pilot project and then bigger project. And on the way, they start doing research on alliancing. So they learn that there is another model, IPD, which is integrated project delivery model. And in IPD, there are other methods and other elements which are also useful. What are those elements? Of course, they are like, as an example, are lean construction methods. There are last planner, target cost, these different elements from lean construction, which we know that nowadays there are hot topic, lean construction. So what Finnish people done was say, okay, alliance is good, but still lean construction sounds very interesting. Why shouldn't we integrate them? So they come up with their own model, Finnish or Finland alliance model, which is like Australian alliance model, but now embedded with lean construction tools.
Okay.
So that's what I think we need to do. We don't need to follow or copy any of these models. We started already practicing them. In some times we need to come up with our own model, the model which fits Norwegian context, Norwegian environment. And the reason for that is we have a very unique culture in Norway or in Scandinavia. I was working in oil and gas project and in a small cities. And the funny part was we are having a meeting, so a client and contractor. And my boss, who is the contractor, is the husband in one household. And the person who is sitting in front of us as a client is the wifey. So yes, that was so these two people are trusting each other.
Yeah.
Of course, they are in two sides of the table, but they trust each other.
Yeah.
And I think making trust in Norway is much easier to making trust, I don't know, in United States, in Middle East. So we might need our own model. We might come to the point that we said, okay, we need to put less pressure on, those elements which building trust, and we need to put more, weight on the elements that improve the collaboration. So
Maybe
something like
we should make a Norwegian alliance model.
Yes, exactly. Why not? Why in Finland they have done it? We now practicing all models. The interesting and the big advantage of Norwegian environment is we haven't decided yet which model is best. As I said, in Finland, the dominant model is alliance. In Sweden, the dominant model is still, partnering. Now they are getting other models as well. So my point is we haven't decided which model is dominant. So maybe we can, put them all together, compare them with our needs, and come up with some model that actually address those needs. Because these models are not a rocket science. They are, a combination of elements. They are a combination of some small fractions. And we can make the combination which fits the need we have in Norway. And that's some things that I would like to see happening in Norway. And hopefully it happen. I know there are so many research happening. There are pilot project and big project practicing these forms. And as soon as we get to collect the result and effect, then I think that's the ground for coming up with our own model.
Okay, I think you have to clarify one thing for me. It's you talk about alliance and you talk about partnering. What really is the difference? These two.
Partnering or Samspill is very loose model.
Yeah.
The problem with or I can refer to the research we have done in both partnering and alliancing. We try to define these models, and we said, okay, how we can define these models? One way, when it is actually a big concept for defining something. So for defining something, one of the way that you can do is to break down that concept or the things that you want to define to small elements and define it based on what is inside that concept. So that was what we have done in NTNU. So we break down partnering to small elements. And as I said, we call it soft elements and hard elements. Those elements which are in the contract and those elements which you can't see them.
Yeah.
We did a very comprehensive research. We studied 46 projects which labeled as a partnering in Norway. And the idea behind that study was to map and see what element is actually applied and presented in which project. So in every project, we give them a list of elements that we had to the project manager or somebody who knows about the project to check mark those elements which were presented in that project. And by elements, I mean, everything's like a startup meeting, like open book economy, like relocation, like branding, all these things that you can see them in the contract format or even payment format, these kind of things. The funny things was we had 39 elements, identified 39 hard elements, because as we talk, soft elements are not easy to identify. And the result was, in these 46 projects, you cannot find even one element which is repeated in all these 46 projects.
Wow.
Can you see how loose is this concept? Yeah. I even see organization, which I'm not naming organization, but they have 3 different partnering models.
Yeah.
They have actually 3 project managers which are familiar with partnering concepts. So each of these project managers have their own partnering model. So the result was we conclude that partnering is not easy to define.
So back to my earlier question, that really is really a big need for a standard contract or standard model for partnering.
Yes. But Alexander, I ask you to think about it in other way. I'm looking at partnering in other way. And the reason is, as I said, partnering is loose, so you can build up your partnering project the way that you like.
Okay, yeah.
So on the other hand, let me just give you some insight about alliance as well. We studied Australian alliance project, 14 of them.
Yeah.
And we did the same. We listed all the elements, contract elements, and we check what elements is presented in what project. and all the elements were presented in all the project.
Wow.
Very, very solid definition. So if you are doing alliance project, you know what you do. You know the recipe.
I see.
But partnering, there is no recipe. Everybody do it the same way. Or everybody do it different ways. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I don't see bad things about it. And why? I think that we have solid relational models like alliancing and IPD. So we don't need to make, another solid definition of, putting all these elements together and now you have alliancing. We already have alliance definition or IPD definition. So when partnering is helpful, partnering gives you the freedom to build up based on your need. You don't have that freedom in alliance. You need to have all the elements. But maybe you see, I have a small project and my contractor is not, okay with open book economy. Open book economy is part of alliance. You cannot have alliance without open book economy. Of course you can, but it doesn't make sense. But in a small project, maybe one company doesn't want to share those information. So partnering gives you the possibility to eliminate that element from your work. But there is a downside and negative side to this, good part. And it is some people just have a traditional project and have one partnering element like, a startup meeting or kickoff meeting. And then they labeled their project as a partnering project. But it is not partnering. Everything is traditional. So this is, it should be a balance. This is kind of a paradox there. But I still, nowadays, when I look at them, I see, we need two kind of approach. One, we're building up based on the needs. So we have all these elements of different relational contract in a contingency pool or in a big pool of element. And then you have a project. Your project have some needs, some characteristic. It's complex, it is multi-party, and you as a client also have some character. You have the competence for doing that or not. So different kind of character. So we have a pool of elements and some needs. So we can just pick up one need. For addressing this need, what we need, element X. For addressing next need or, next criteria, we need element B. So build up your delivery model or contract for each project individually, separate. That's one idea. In contrast, there are some people in the industry or academic that they think it should be some standard. It should be some standard called, for example, partnering standard. And every partnering project should be like that. So there are two different options, two different scenarios. And I think both are making sense. I have pros and cons for both of them.
So can you say that alliance is like partnering? 100% partnering.
I call it pure partnering.
Pure partnering.
Yes.
And everybody is on the same table. They know what they are into.
Yes, very, very good. Very good. You put it in a good sentence. That's why that's how I call partnering. I say, there are all partnering, but pure partnering, there is a colleague in Sweden, Professor Eriksson, and the way that he explained it, he said, that's just matter of the collaboration. So you can have collaboration just in one meeting in a project, or you can have, the extreme collaboration like alliancing.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That was very helpful. Pure partnering is, that was maybe like an illusion, or is it possible?
I think it is not possible, at least nowadays in Norway. And the problem, one of the problem is all the partnering project or most of partnering project I saw in Norway, they are still having it is like Swedish partnering. So they are still having those traditional structure, couple of page of contract, which blame, the contractor. So there is still there, but they add some arrangements as an additive material to the contract. Like, we need to have more meeting. We need to talk about risk and we are going to share risk, a couple of these things, but not certainly binding elements. So they are still using the traditional form of contract like NS 8404 and other for Norwegian standard as a basis.
Yeah.
Then they have, some, I don't know, cooperation agreement or something like that, or additive elements or arrangement to the contract. I think that's the problem, because we always have some traditional contract format to blame somebody. One of the things we need to learn is the best for the project and no blame culture.
Yeah.
So, but we don't have the contract format, or at least not for a small project, which support no blame culture so far.
Okay, very interesting. I think I want to talk a little bit more about this digital revolution here in our industry, and you mentioned here earlier that the consultancy might have to work differently. We have the parametric design and all this data power that can that they do one computer do 100 engineers work. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts about this? How will the consultancy develop?
That's, I think, also very interesting and hot topic nowadays. And as I said, future of consultancy is going to be a new arena. We are not going to compete on what we have competed so far. And that's one of the reasons is this digitalization. I'm sure, even nowadays, you can find design or module design or these kind of things in internet. And I'm sure soon it's going to be some databases for this design, or these big, software companies start establishing such a database. So designing a simple element won't be an engineering job in future, I think. What's actually be an engineering job, it's interesting to look at. I cannot come up for sure, but I think, things that nowadays are more focused on the design is, working on sustainability, or, adopting a design to some situation. So I think the engineering or engineer competence will change from developing a design from scratch to just adjusting a design to, to the needs that the company has.
Yeah.
And of course, it's going to reduce some number of, job for engineers. And that's actually happening in all branches.
Yeah.
Machinery, computers, and different robots are actually doing their job. Mm-hmm. So we cannot do anything about it.
Have you seen it yet, that engineers are losing their jobs?
I haven't seen anything like this in Norway, at least.
No.
But I know that, companies, at least in Norway, those companies which making the same, the same kind of construction or the same kind of structures, they are having their own database. So sometimes even they selling their design. Sometimes they giving this design to other companies for some kind of cost. But in Norway, I haven't seen any loss of job in engineering field because of digitalization.
No, not yet.
No, not yet. But do you see that?
I think there is like this. You talked about this earlier. The change of culture that maybe it's needed, or it will come eventually. Going from the hourly based payment to delivery based payment. And many of these consultancy companies, they work for hourly based contracts. So they have, they don't have any incentives to use the new technology to work more efficient. And I guess the customers that are that want to develop a project, they should maybe pay more for deliveries than the hours from the consultants.
I agree, Alexander. That's actually the essence of what I said, you presented very well. One of the things I don't like about what I see in the industry is how we pay the engineers, how we pay the designers. Nowadays, based on this hourly based payment, the amounts of money that a designer or engineer receive per hour is almost the same as the amount of money a construction worker receive at the site.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they are not doing nothing. Of course, they do muscle work. But on the other hand, the engineer who is, for example, a senior engineer working, 20 years in industry, 15 years of education, and when you see the bill and the bill that it's sent for the design is, 800 kron per hours, 900 kron or 1,000 per hours, which is the same for the construction. And I think that's not right. So there is no, as you said, motivation for engineering company or for that designer to spend more time. And, the boss, the team leader, the CEO have to focus on, billing more hours rather than more quality.
Exactly.
And that's wrong. That bring the efficiency down. That bring the productivity, make the productivity lower and lower. And that's, even by common sense, we see that it is wrong.
Yeah.
But what should we do that? We start this discussion now. And I'm very happy with this. We start this project we initiated before Corona, and it was quite very slow speed because of Corona. But when we start talking with companies, it was interesting for me how fast we recruit so many companies. Now all big engineering companies in Norway are part of this project because they know themselves that it is not right, it is wrong, and nobody talked for them so far.
No.
So at least now some researcher, stand up and say, okay, let's do something about it.
They know they have to change, but they don't want to.
Oh, yes. I think so.
Just like Kodak when they have digital photos, right?
Yes, that's actually a good example. That's a good example. The things about this changing in engineering is we have some big actors that maybe those big actors are happy with the way the work it is, and those big actors are usually executing the biggest project in Norway. So I think we need to think a little bit bigger. Those who are making strategies, those who are making this big decision, need to look at the bigger picture here, look at the future. Because as I said, there is the same research project called Future of Consultancy in UK, which I think it has a huge budget, over 40 million something pounds, to fix or to find a solution and answer for these. So, and that one also was financed by some of the industry partners because they feel there is a need. They felt that they should change this. And I think we need to do it in Norway as well. I'm not sure how easy it is, but if we can find out how to actually bring the value into the equation, maybe later we can, aim for a new standard or new contract format. But first, we need to have value everywhere. We just need to talk about value. I think lower price contract or, bidding on the price, it is outdated, very, very outdated.
I so agree. Okay, we in this podcast we have a hunt for best practice. We try to find best practice, and I think that's an ever ongoing hunt. We're not going to find it, but we will develop. And I think about this. You can learn a lot from projects and things that are good, but do you think this industry should learn more from project failures, and how could we do that?
Definitely. I think one of the learning material in industry, especially construction industry, is failure. And that's, of course, one thing is that we always need to have a record of that. The good things or the interesting things in these relational projects is that there are always a phase called, lesson learned at the end of the project, So by closing the project, you documented these things. You document the things that happened during the project. And I think nowadays, if we start practicing such a things in Norway and in all our projects, definitely there are projects in Norway as well which do the same. But nowadays with this digitalization, it is very easy to have a record, to have, because we are actually going toward paperless project execution, which already happened in Australia, New Zealand, some project in US. Nobody, carry, a design paper or something to the project. Everything is digital. So at the same time, it is easy to save those digital things. If, a problem come up at the site and you fix it with having a meeting, with all partners, then it is easy to just have a folder, a place, somebody record these things for future project.
Yeah.
Write some things about it. And, checking the effect of the project. What we do usually in construction project is we deliver the project and ha det bra. There is nothing after that. So I'm always curious. If I was running a construction company, I would like to see how my project hold up in 5 years, collecting the effect.
Very interesting. But we are in such a hurry to get to the next project.
Yes, because we're just thinking about money.
Yeah.
Because we're thinking about making more money. But that's the things about value. If we start recognizing value as a critical element in making decision,
exactly,
then you want to collect those information because they will help you for making a better value in your future project, or you can see what value your project bring to the society, to the user. I don't see construction companies collect the user experience after the project finish. Of course, I understand because nobody paid them to do so, and they are having different goal. But again, this is something that needs to come out from, public organization, Statsbygg. They need to put it in the contract that the effect needs to be collected, something like that. I don't know, some solution.
But
I just raw idea.
On the website bygg.no, you have these summaries of projects. When they are finished, you have this summary. This is the project, these were involved, and blah, blah, blah. Would be very interesting if in that article it could be some lessons learned.
Yes.
What was lessons learned from this project? But I don't see that in this.
I think that's some things we need to focus more. And it should, as I said, it should come from, authorities, public authorities who making big project, infrastructure project.
Yeah.
That's the place that we start making culture. That's the place, a project, a road project in Statensvegvesen or hospital project in Statsbygg or other public organization. Those are, I think, the authority to make these demands that, collect your lesson learned and submit it with the project document.
Yeah.
That's something. The next part is collect the effect of your project. What effect it brings to the user? What effect it brings to the society? Of course, we're forcing them in the design process, but now please check if they are actualized. So I think these demands, it takes time, but I think that's the way to do it.
Okay, so maybe you just answered that, but what do you think people in the construction industry should do to educate themselves and how they practice to develop?
There are so many ways of doing that. What I experience in different company that I work, not academia, like I was working in Cameroon, Africa for a Norwegian company to make water treatment factories and facilities. Or I work also in oil and gas project, both in Middle East, Malaysia, and Norway. And what I think or what I learned during this time or see colleagues and how they work is that there are people running the project, but they don't have the project management competence. And that's the big problem we have in industry, that people who are engineers and having engineer education think that the project management is a common sense. Project management is not a common sense. Project management is a knowledge. So if you are a decent engineer, you are a very fine, good engineer, it doesn't mean that you are a good project manager as well. So first of all, we need to educate our project managers. I was working with the project managers who didn't know the concept of planning. They were using MS Project or even, Primavera, but they didn't know how, for example, this is slag coming up, how the critical path will calculate it. And as far as you don't know it, you cannot plan for, corrective actions when you have a problem in your project. So educating project managers. And when I'm saying educating project managers, I mean those managers who are running a small project. Because I'm sure if we're talking about big size or medium size project, there are managers who know how to manage. So for those a small size project, we need to have simple education in so many cases. But when it's come to the big project, like, I don't think that project managers in a Statens vegvesen or a Statsbygg or this big organization and big project needs any basic information of how to run their project. They definitely have experience and know that. But what I think would be positive and would help them is to give them edge of knowledge, the state of art. What are the new concepts in management? Like, lean construction, it is not very new anymore, but so many people don't know what are the methodologies and method in lean construction, what is last planner, how they use it, and other method. So I think that's the way to do it is to make a strong bridge and connection between industry and universities. And then, come up with new knowledge, because university have access to the state of art, to the most recent knowledge. But again, we might be too academic. So if we mix it with practical knowledge from industry, then we might come to the good solution. We bring the theory, you bring the experience, we, synthesize it, mix it, and we come out with a good paste to improve the industry. I think that's the way for future.
Very good, thank you. And for one last question before we run out of time here, is to the young people in this industry, or young people that are curious about this industry. Let's say for yourself, if you were to talk to a young version of yourself before going into your career, do you have any tip of how to have an interesting and a good career?
That's also a good question. I have this discussion with my students all the time, and that's a little bit difficult also to answer, because are we talking about engineers or project managers, or I don't know. But in general, I always recommend my students that keep your, connection to the knowledge. Keep your connection to looking, for a new knowledge. Don't drown yourself with just practical work. Try to test, because, I teach my students new method in project management, for example, but they go in a company and they just, follow the old way of managing project in the company. Don't do that. Fight for new model. Of course, I understand that there are managers, senior managers in each company, which they don't want to take the risk to, experiment new method, experiment new way of running project. But at the end of the day, it's the job of young generation to push for new method, to argue for, this method gonna work. Let's at least try it. And that's, I think, one of the things that I'm asking our senior managers to also consider, that, one of the problem I saw a lot is this organization with the big project, again, public organization. The people who running or big managers are senior managers who gonna be, pensionists or retired in 5 years, 6 years, couple of years. So they don't want to take the risk to suddenly, change the whole system and come up using, alliancing or other model. But Statens vegvesen did a very fine and nice job back in 2015 when it was E39 project. It was the director of Statens vegvesen said, okay, we need new knowledge. We need to understand what's going on. We need to see how other countries run their big infrastructure project. And that was the reason, I started doing a PhD, because I've been offered this PhD position. I was working in oil and gas, and they wanted to bring experience from oil and gas to construction industry. That's what I love. That's what I like to see in other organizations. Statens vegvesen finance over 40 PhD candidates for E39 project. That's huge.
That's good.
That's very good.
Yeah.
So I think we need to see more of these initiatives. We need to see that industry actually look at universities and academic as partner, not, a pain that always they wanted something new. No, we are partner. We are developing the branch together. We in academic and you as a practitioner, we will be a good team. And all we talk today and we are talking these days is about collaboration and being a good team. So let's just be together and solve the industry problem.
Thank you. That's really powerful, Allen. And I think that's a very good tip in the end there. So to collect new knowledge and fight for new models.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So to sum up this, I think very many interesting topics, and I think we have a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we could talk again later.
Yeah, of course.
And I want to thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and wish you the best of luck with your future research and the new models.
Yeah, thank you, Alexander. It was a great talk, and I appreciate for the opportunity to speak out about these things which are always in my brain and my mind and occupy them. So I appreciate. Hopefully we can do it again, talking and exploring more about the issues in the industry.
Oh, I would love to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Var ikke det en veldig spennende samtale? Samtalen med Allen var så interessant at vi kunne pratet i mange timer. Det er derfor mulig at det blir en oppfølging av denne episoden i en senere episode av Prosjekteffektpodden. Hvis du også likte dette og ønsker å dele erfaringer og inspirasjon med andre, pass på å dele linken til Prosjekteffekt med dine venner og kollegaer. Spre refleksjonene om prosjekt og ledelse, sånn at vi alle kan være med å utvikle våre prosjekter, vårt samspill og vår bransje. Prosjekteffekt.no